Trying to get anything started off. You can't hear me. What's going on?
Yes.
Is that what we wanted? Okay. Okay. Okay.
We good? All right.
All right, y'all. So good evening. Good evening. We apologize for the delay as there were some technical difficulties. You know, anything great is not going to be easy. So we had to go through the process, but we're here today. This is our podcast called Generational Healing. I am Talia Chambers.
And I am Valerie McAllister.
And we're coming here today. This is our first episode. So that first episode, we're getting all the jitters out. And we put this podcast together, keeping ourselves in the mind of the things that we have experienced through our lives. And the reason why the name Generational Healing came about between my mother and I is basically solely based on our life experiences and the things that I've seen from her, and the things that I've taken from what she taught me. It's not just me; it's me and my sister. You know, it's she had two children, and we have learned a lot, but we've also learned a lot on both ends of the spectrum. So, we're going to start the show off today, and we're just going to talk a bit about ourselves. That way, you kind of know who we are. There are certain individuals who do already know who we are, who already follow us, who kind of already know what we're about, what we do, but there's definitely, I'm sure, a lot of individuals that don't. And you know, this is the reintroduction to some, and this is the initial introduction to others. I'm going to let my mother lead. Ladies
Yes.
first. But go
Thank
ahead.
you. All right. So we have some jamming music that my sister wrote and produced that will be on our next podcast. But I'm Valerie McAllister. I am a mom, a grandmother. I'm a self published author. I have done radio. I have done a podcast before, created some short films to my book, which is The Ladies of the Book Club and Cal's Return, the book club too. I've written, been an entrepreneur. The name of our business is Generational Words. And we call ourselves expression artists because we believe that expression comes in all forms of positive expression, whether it be through art or music or written word. And my daughter really follows that. And so we've been, I've done some speaking engagements and some women's workshops. And really, I know that my purpose and my calling is really to help to heal what appears to be broken, and that includes myself. I currently blog, and through my blogs, I've been sharing and reaching out. And I've been just in my 63 years of living discovered that there is so much healing that started when we were young, like things that have been implanted in us, and we carry that and we show up in our adult skins like we're all adults, and never do work on the healing part.
Right.
So I've been on this continuous healing journey, right? And as I've been doing that, I really have been wanting, encouraging, especially speaking to my children, giving them permission to heal as well. With that comes accountability, right? Accountability, sometimes that we own and sometimes that we don't own, because everything about us and how we show up plays out in our relationships,
Yeah.
in our work, in
And let
our
me interject really quick. I'm sorry.
interject,
Because
young
she
lady.
tried to downplay herself real quick and just, oh, I did a couple of things here and there, and
You
I've
did
done
do
some
a
conferences. She was actually voted in to be one of the 50 most powerful women in our area out here
100.
in Virginia. And so I'm not going to allow her to just sit here and act like she just does this here and there. She is prominent in the community. She is prominent in what she does. She is a director, a writer, an actress, an entrepreneur, multiple business owner, also raised two children on her own. So she needs to talk about that too. But I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you got to let people know proudly who you are, because one of the things that I know that we do in general as people, just being people, is we kind of push ourselves to the back burner for other things. And sometimes that's not what we should do. You need to boast. It's not a thing of being cocky, it's just being confident and also showing your blessings in rare form.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And you know what? That is one of the things that I do not do well. Um, because a long time ago, I was planted with this seed that I was not enough, right?
Mhm.
So I carry this not enough seed. Now, people play that out in different ways. Sometimes people become very controlling and they are the people that's, you know, extra and arrogant because they want you to know that they're enough. Sometimes that is part of someone telling them that they weren't enough. Mine had the opposite effect. I have a hard time. Like, I'm humble. I don't see myself the same way that others see me, right?
Right.
So when people say, "Oh, you've done this and that," I go, "Yeah, I like it's not a big deal, right? Maybe it should be, maybe it shouldn't
Thank
be."
you.
But again, that's part of something that was planted in me, that I'm working through.
Yeah, understood. So, a little about myself. A lot of people know me as Capri. On Facebook, it's Capri Chambers. On Instagram, it's Capri Chambers as well. My name is Talia Chambers. For people who know me personally, you know exactly who I am. I am an entrepreneur as well, running multiple businesses of others. I also run my own tax preparation and business consultation um, business. I've raised four children. And I'm a writer as well. I'm a newly starting writer. Like, I've written for years because I am an artist as well, and I sing as well, and I rap as well. And I'm not going to downplay any of that because I'm good at everything that I do, thanks to this woman right here. But along with that, I have been on a very different growing journey. And honestly, if you would have asked me 5 years ago that I would be where I'm at today on a mental and emotional level, I probably wouldn't have believed it, only because of the mentality that I had then versus what I have now. And that's not to say that, you know, it was so many miraculous things, but in the same sense, it really has been miraculous things that has happened to get me to the point that I'm at today. It was just a lot of growth, and it was a lot of accountability that I had to take, and it was time that I had to take, and it was, having conversations with myself,
Mm.
having conversations, looking in the mirror, having conversations, talking to God. And of course, I'm very well aware that everyone does not have the same beliefs or belief system. I could just attest to myself, and I know for me, that's what I walk in on a daily basis. But um, this generational healing journey has been a ride, and I'm still on it, right? Still learning, still growing, still teaching, because I have 4 children, as I spoke about earlier, and they're watching me. And they're teenagers, one is a preteen, but I have to understand the impact that any move that I make has that impact on them and what they choose or what they do in their adult lives, which is why it's important and it's prominent that the things that I instill in them are not of damage. Because a lot of us, unfortunately, come from those places of
Yeah.
trauma, of damage. A lot of us get in relationships that are trauma bound. You know what I mean? And that's more so like having similarities as far as what things that we may have went through as children, right, that were similar. And sometimes we navigate or gravitate more so towards those individuals that have those similarities. And
But here,
sometimes we
let me
grow and
just
heal from it.
absolutely. But here's some real raw.
Yeah.
The fact that me and my daughter are doing this podcast today is nothing but the miracle of God.
Yeah.
Because 3 years ago,
Yeah.
I was getting ready to disown this child right here.
Yeah.
Like for real. We had came to this impasse. Like Talia and I have always been like connected. We're a lot alike. When she was a little girl, she was always like by my string. And I always felt overprotective of Talia and spoiled her, right? Plan A, B, C, D, and E. That was the mama, because that's the mama that I am. She got into this relationship. Now, Talia's been in a lot of relationships, and
Talia's
I'm the
been in a
mama
lot of
that I'm not
relationships.
impressed, blah blah blah. But this relationship vexed my entire soul. But what I was realizing, there have been times when my children have been in relationships, and they knew I didn't approve of it, but they really heard my like disapproval of it, like, and they received it, and it might have took them a while to get out of it. She was a different person in this relationship for me. My children have always been respectful of me, whether they agree with me a lot, but she turned into a I don't know who she is person. And one day, uh, maybe we'll talk about what actually led up to it, but a traumatic event happened that tested our relationship. And after that, I was so hurt. I was so distraught. I can't even tell you what the words are being a mom. I went home and I said to God, I think I'm done with my daughter. Like, and something has to happen. And God said to me, if you truly give her to me, I will fix it. And I was like, yeah, I gave her to you. He was like, no, you don't really give her to me because you don't really trust me with your children. You give her to me and then you take her back. You want to control the situation. You want to do X, Y, and Z. Give her to me and I'm going to work it out. And the other thing that God said is that you got to remember what you have implanted in her, right? Because my kids saw me in relationships that were
Toxic.
toxic as that canoodle. And I stayed and I left and I went and I came and there was another toxic relationship after another. And when you see in your children what you are,
Right.
you attack it almost, right? You don't want that. Don't do that. Make a different mistake.
Right.
And they like, oh, it's going to be different with me because I got a different answer. And it's not, right? So it was difficult.
Yeah.
She had to go through all of her journey. I had to watch her go through all of her journey. So much so that this young lady went and signed herself into a shelter down the street from me. And I watched that. I watched all of the things happen. I watched, because I got grandchildren. So, I'm going to be protective because they're my grandchildren. I'm going to be, no, God's like, you must allow her to find her bottom, dig her stuff out of it, be there for her, love her, but you got to allow her to do that. So I say all that to say, if you guys only knew the journey
Yeah.
The fact that we're sitting here today talking about healing is because we understand what healing looks like. We understand what trauma looks like. We understand the need for it. I don't want my grandchildren to feel like they have to walk down the same paths just because they think the paths are going to be different.
Mhm.
A whole is a whole, people.
And and speaking, kind of piggybacking off of what she's saying, you know, we also have to look at things realistically, which I think people don't do as often as they should, because realistically speaking, you can instill all you want into your children. You can tell them, and show them too, everything opposite of what you have experienced, you went through, or what you were showing them at one time, and try to transition and change it or whatever have you. The decision is ultimately going to be up to them in the future, just like it was for me, just like it was for my sister, just like I'm sure it was for her, once she became an adult after coming out of her parents' home. So we still have to understand that the decision is still going to be made, and we really don't know what direction that child, once they become adults, is going to go into anyway. But what we can do is the best that we can do while we're in the position to be able to transition them the best way possible, because a lot of parents have different definitions of what parenting looks like, right? There's really no book on it. There's books obviously out here, but there's really no book on parenting and the right or the wrong way to do things. People in this world are always going to have their opinion on what your lifestyle is, or a way that a person may or may not be raising their child, or whatever the case may be. But ultimately, it just boils down to that person, once they become an adult, their mentality and their discernment and their decision making skills. And I believe that the best way to help implement as much as possible is to be that exact replica, in a sense, but not like, you don't want them to be like you. You want your children always to be better than you. At least that's what my idea is in my head, because I know I've made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of decisions that I wish were different. I don't say regret, just because they happen for a reason. Moments happen for a reason. Times happen for a reason. There's lessons in everything that you go through throughout life. So I'm more than grateful for every lesson that I've learned throughout my life thus far, and everything that's coming in my future. But I know that in order for me to even see a small change in my generation and the one after mine and my children's children, is to change it myself. And it had to start at home with me, which is why a lot of what I do now is so intentional. And for my kids, it can be overbearing sometimes, just depending upon how I'm approaching the situation with them. But I know what the bigger picture is, as far as why I'm doing certain things, why I'm implementing certain things, while I'm trying to teach them things, because this world will eat you up and
Yes,
spit you out
it will.
in a moment. You know what I mean? So we have to prepare them for that too. And coddling is a thing with some people too, where you feel like, well, if I don't allow my child to be around certain things or people or areas, then that'll keep them from it. No, because what you're doing is setting them up to go sneak and do it. Or once they get to the point of being an adult, they're going to go experience it anyway, because you kept them from it. As soon as they get a taste of it, you never know what direction they may go. You know what I mean?
Me and my friends have these conversations about the generations, right?
Yeah.
So we come from I'm 63. My parents and their parents were spared a rod, spoiled a child. What happens in this house stays in this house. Um, there's certain things that you do and you don't do, and they're secrets,
Yeah.
right? So there was punishment. There was, I'm gonna whoop your ass. That's what happened, right?
Right.
Then a lot of my generation, friends, family said that was too harsh. I want my children, I want to talk to them. I want them to have more than I had. And so we have these conversations about right or wrong, and whether or not our generation did a disservice to the generation after us, because there's no reverence, there's no appear allegedly, there's no respect of authority. Um, and I've had young people say to me, "No, I don't. I don't feel like I automatically need to respect an adult. They have to earn it." Now, that's a good question. And some on in some areas I feel like here's where my generation may some of us have done a disservice to the our children because just because you feel it's not appropriate to spank a child, there's still other disciplines that need to happen.
Right.
Um, like my mom and dad was like, "This is my house. I pay the rent. I take care of you." Now, my mother allowed me to have a voice, which is very different than a lot of my friends. They didn't get a voice. I said it. That's what it is. My mom, you had to be careful when you had that voice, but she would allow me later on to come and talk to her.
Right.
A lot of my parents didn't have the benefit. My friends didn't have that benefit. So with their children, it's like, well, for example, they might say, "Oh, this child is so disrespectful," and I told them not to be on the whatever phone, and they was anyway. My immediate thought is, who bought that phone? Why are you allowing them to do that? Disrespectful. My children are 40s, and they don't even if they curse, they say, "Oh, I'm sorry." So I can't imagine, but I've seen it. Children talking any kind of way to their parents. Um, you know, puffing up at their parents because I wouldn't have had teeth. My children, I'm gonna be honest, would not have had teeth, right? So I don't understand that part. I understand that we, our generation, wanted something a little different, but I kind of think we went a little bit overboard. What do you think about that?
I mean, because, seeing as though one of the ones who had to experience it, it was definitely overboard. Just being honest, and I'm laughing, but I'm serious. So this is why I say that. I do not. The only okay. So there was a time in my adult life as a parent that discipline was a thing as far as spankings, right? But honestly, when I look back to mine, and I know that I was a child that got into a lot. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I was an innocent child. I never did anything wrong. I was just a sweet, blah, 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 blah. That would be a whole entire lie. I was very inquisitive. I always wanted to know what something was, where somebody was going. I wanted to be there too. I wanted to be around people. I was definitely a people person as a child. So, I had a lot of friends or whatever, but I was also like sneaky. You know what I mean? Like me and my cousin would just go do stuff just out of boredom. But that was all, in my opinion, circumstantial. You know what I mean? Like, and when I told you guys about this podcast, I told you that we were going to be 100% honest and transparent about our situations. We have no reason to hide anything. And this is something that we know is a part of our healing process, which is why it's okay for us to talk about it. But we definitely had situations where there was, in my mind, the factor felt like abuse in some situations. I know it was reprimand. I know that it was discipline at that time. And I know that was based on what was taught in the generations before me. But that's the way that it kind of felt and seemed. Um, and at the same time, when it came to my children, I wanted to do something different than what I seen. I wanted to do something different than what I was shown. And I was able to prove to myself that discipline definitely can come with words. It just has to be consistency. So it could be actions behind it, but it doesn't have to be you putting your hands on your children. You just have to be consistent. And I think some parents, in general, sometimes miss that because they get so frustrated in the moment that it turns into something that may feel like abuse or look like abuse, or it could actually be abuse. It really just depends upon what your household looks like, right? Um, if I'm looking at it from the lens as far as what today looks like, I feel like some of these kids need they ass whoop. Let me just be 100% transparent. Just because they're very different and the disrespect is loud, and there's not a lot of reprimand happening because you see a lot of parents out here trying to be their kids' friends. And I feel like there's nothing wrong because me and my mother are friends, right? I feel like there's nothing wrong with parents being their child's friend, but at a certain time point in their life, the lessons have to be learned. And if they're learning from you that, oh, mom or dad or mom and dad are my friends, and that's when they choose to push the envelope. That's when they choose to test you. And then when they see that you're really not doing anything about it, oh, they're most definitely going to continue to do that because that's what's allowed. So like, I know that you said earlier that, you know, you don't understand, but the reason why is because the era is different. We learn different ways. The implementation was different. The consistency was different. You know, what was allowed and what's not allowed is different. Now we are in such a soft era. Let me be transparent. And this is just my opinion. There's going to be people that don't agree with what I'm saying. And that's perfectly fine.
Mhm.
But that we're living in this era where a lot of parents are not built, I guess, or they don't feel, they're taking it to another level when it comes to it, and it's they just completely take away the parenting part is when it comes to discipline. And I think that's a part of the problem because there's no fear. And I'm not saying that your child should walk around like, oh my God, my mom or my dad is gonna beat the shit out of me, whatever the case may
Maybe the
be.
word is reverence.
But yeah, reverence.
Fear.
There has to be some type of reverence within your household because that's like chain of command in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Like if mom says this or dad says this, that's law. That was law in our household. If my mother said it's law, and you know for a fact, if you went against it in any kind of way, shape, or form, there's a consequences coming to your actions. The children now, it's a lot different. Not all of them, you know, because every household is different, but there's a lot of children now where that's not a factor. And it's just, I'm riding with my mom or dad, and we're doing this and we're doing that. And these kids are lost. They don't know a lot. But
we have to, and that comes back to what we hold, right? So, in terms of what we might have called abuse, I have to say, a lot of us in my era would have called it abuse because we switches, whatever. And I think that as Black people, there's this historic context that we don't look at, right? Because our history is as slaves, to keep us in line, you had to whip us. You had to take away our spirit. You had to make sure that you had complete control.
yeah,
And we don't really look into how that impacts us as people, right? How that was a generational thing. Just like secrets, you didn't say a lot because it could have been detrimental. Um, you know, you didn't want Master the Nude know that you could read. There were certain things you had to hold. And I don't think we give enough credence to that. So, in order to maintain, and not just that, not just something that was passed down in a dangerous way, but we had to, our history made it so that there had to be a certain amount of discipline because it could cost us our life.
yeah,
Our children, those, the children of that age, they couldn't go around saying anything or anything, everything. It would cost them their life. They could be hung from a tree. They could be brutal. Like, so there had to be a certain amount of control
yeah,
that generation had to have just to live and be Black, right?
yeah.
So that's something that I think should be acknowledged, that maybe not all cultures have to deal with. Just like we have to give our children the talk, how to act if you get stopped by a policeman. All cultures don't have to give their children the
That's all.
talk,
Yeah,
but we do, right? Don't be going out here acting crazy. And we don't have to get into this subject now, but we have a young man, Nolan, who lost his life, who the first thing that anyone of color sees when they see him with all his little white friends is, that's that's a setup, right? So there are things that we have to take into account as we're parenting that other people don't. But I was also a parent educator for many years. And actually, that is when I learned that you can parent effectively. I don't care what color you are. And it doesn't necessarily have to be punitive or corporal punishment, right? Because I've said to parents that's come to me and say, I told that child that 100 times.
Mhm.
And that's why I snapped, because I done told him 4 or 5 times. And what my question is why? Because you tell them once, you wait for a response. If the response is positive, then you follow through with a positive response. If the response is negative, you say, okay, this is what I need you to do. And if you don't, here's the consequence. The third time, there's no more discussion. There's only the consequence or the reward.
Right.
It took me years to learn that and then teach that to people. It's effective
Right.
because the only person you stress it out by saying it 50 times is you.
It's yourself.
And you're teaching your children that you do not mean what you say.
Exactly.
You don't mean it because you're going to say it the fifth time.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. But not but and I, that is why it's important because like you just said, it comes with consistency. That is the lack thereof in a lot of households right now is the consistency part as far as following through with just about anything. But right now we're talking about our children and our households and things that we're showing them. So it's just like my question to our people is like what steps do we need to take in order for us to be able to implement these things so that number one, we're not living in a household where the mother or the father both individually or together are stressed out by what they already have going on in the world and work and they have to take care of bills in the household and then have to come home and then stressing out about their children not being ruly or listening or following directions when this is going to all come right back to accountability and it's going to come all right back to what are we doing to make sure that it's consistent. We are the inconsistent ones, and I say we because definitely I am a product of that, have been, right? Not now in my life, but I definitely there was a time within my parenting journey where there were inconsistencies and I'm all stressed out and going through all of these things and looking older than I actually am, feeling older than I am, not really getting any rest, not really talking to anybody, which is a whole nother subject we'll talk about when it comes to therapy and the lack thereof in our community. But even beyond that, like we sometimes are our worst enemy. And I think I posted about this either yesterday or a couple of days ago, but we sometimes can be our worst enemy in things because we are against ourselves, not just doing what we need to do, taking the time that we need to take. We make time for what we want to make time for. And then we have excuses for things that may be too much or too strenuous at the time, depending upon who's the asker at the moment. But truthfully speaking, if we take that time, no matter how stressful it is in the moment, to be consistent and just keep doing that and just make it habit, then you don't have to worry most of the time, not all of the time, because again, every child is different, right? And it depends upon what you're dealing with in your household. Some people are dealing with children on the spectrum and, that are autistic, that have other issues when it comes to mental or emotional habits or things of that nature. So I cannot speak to everybody's situation because I do understand that everyone's situation is different, but we have to know that there is a way to kind of shift the trajectory of the direction of what's going on within our household or with our situation.
I think we need to, I think that will bring us and further discussions as we talk in where we are in the community. When I was growing up, we had my aunts and my cousins and my play mamas and aunties that supported my mom, right? Um, and we shared in things. We were neighbors for real. We were community for real. Like if you didn't have a piece of bread, so and so had a piece of bread. We're gonna cut it in 20 pieces and everybody gonna have a piece of bread, right? You need a babysitter because you gotta work. I got your kids, you go ahead and do what you gotta do. That is a lack. Like for the most part, we don't have that community for many reasons. One, because you can't trust people, and there's this distrust because you don't know what people are gonna do with your kids. Um, Two, because we are so many of us, not all of us, we're so engulfed in so much, right?
Yeah.
Parenting is one aspect of what we have to do. If we're a single parent, it's even more overwhelming. In this era that we're in right now, where our administration is trying to gut us. That's the word. Trying to gut us, take everything from us. So you you have people in different places. You have people who have joined with someone. You know, I always tell y'all, you got to be careful who you have children by. You have people who really need to be loved and really desire that love and have found someone to love and then impregnated them with a child
Right.
and ain't worth shit, but they love them and now they got this child that they think is going to give them that love that they've been lacking, but now it's hard. Oh, and it's how am I going to take care of them? And all of these other factors play in, and I don't have anybody to help me. And oh, now I find somebody else to love, and here's another child. And so there's so many reasons why just trying to figure out how to effectively discipline, we got to start from all of the stuff
Yeah. You gotta
that
get
we
it out.
bring to the table,
Yeah.
right? And how we're showing up. You know, um, just as an example, this 4 year old girl was brutally murdered by her parents recently. I can't even imagine
Mm.
that kind of brutality. And then I think about these parents were 20 something years old. I don't know what all of the things that they brought to the table when they were seeking love, but all of that unhealed stuff, all of that toxicity, and what evolved was this birth that didn't ask to be here, who is now the consequence of unhealed trauma. That to me is such a God knows. I don't even want it to be the example, but that's the reason why we got to heal, y'all, because
Yeah.
it comes out.
Yeah.
That person on your job, your boss who is an asshole, that person who is so um uh, um think they so perfect and they giving you a hard time and they stressing you out. That person in your church that is so judgmental and makes you feel like you got to be a perfect person because like those people are showing up as their unhealed children's selves, like we do. And if we do not begin to at least acknowledge that that's part of what's going on in our lives, we're
Mhm.
going to continue to bleed on people that didn't cut us,
Yeah.
you know?
I'm sorry. I'm laughing, y'all, because I've said that so many times before. Like, I don't think we realize how much we have the capability to bleed on people just based off our own unhealed trauma and circumstances. And again, that's going to come with accountability, but I think that derives or more so kind of goes back to what we were talking about the therapy piece. I just feel very strongly about talking to somebody. I feel like, there are individuals, and, we'll get on this topic on another show, but like a lot of men rarely indulge in therapy. And sometimes it's based on their ego, sometimes it's based on, their thought process, or a lot of their responses are like, why do we feel like they have to talk to somebody that they don't know about, whatever personal issues that they may have. Some people will go to their grave and have that thought process. But my thing about that is that those are the things that turns into bigger pieces of the unhealed trauma within our relationships. And this is relationships with family, friends, significant others, with our children. We act out what's unhealed in our everyday engagement with these people. And bleeding on them is just simply not dealing with it. It's simply not dealing with it, not looking ourselves in the mirror, not facing what the facts are, not taking accountability, not talking to somebody. Because bottling it up, we already know what that leads to. we know what that leads to, and it's nothing but leading to an explosion of whatever you have bound up or built up within your mind, within your body. Everything that you do, there's a cause and effect. Everything that you do like has some type of repercussion to it, whether it's positive or negative. The direction that your life goes is going to depend upon the decision that we make. And a lot of our choices that we make in life come from what we've seen, and it's not always good. I know for a fact that there's some choices that I've made throughout my life that I'm paying for today. Um, and you will never, some people will never know that. And there may be an individual or individuals that know that, and they're the only people who know that about me on a personal level. But you don't want to walk around with that. It's kind of like when they say you have a chip on your shoulder. That doesn't always necessarily mean someone is snappy all the time, but at the same time, like, that's why we see what we see in this world today, when people are killing their kids, when people are taking these measures that from the outside looking in are diabolical. But we don't understand that that all starts from the household. That all starts from what they dealt with on a mental or
The
emotional level
seed,
or
the
not.
seed. Yeah.
Yeah, the seeds that we're planting. So like, just like my mother said, like, this generational healing journey we feel, or if I'm just speaking for myself, I feel is absolutely necessary, because we have to get to a point, or I would hope that we would get to a point where we get tired of the insanity, doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. It's only going to give us the same results every time. And that's by definition.
Mm.
But we're going to have to be able to stand on some things and be adamant about those things, and make sure that they are consistent as well within our movement, so that what we're showing matches up. We don't want to walk out here and be a bunch of hypocrites. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of people are walking around
Mm.
being, and they're loud with it
Yeah.
because it's accepted now. We're living in a world where everything is what it is. Everything is on social media. Everything is being recorded. Everything is being shown. I know that we all see things on a daily basis where something is happening somewhere in the world, and there's someone behind the camera recording it, not calling for help, not asking if they're okay, not seeing how they can be of help. They're just recording so that they can say, well, at least I got it on film. Well, that's great for the police. You
Mm.
get what I'm saying? But is it great for the person who the camera is on, or even yourself? You know what I mean? We're not really doing anything to change where I and I know that it comes from a place. And like I said, we're going to talk about a lot of, we have time.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And and just some seeds to plants. Sometimes we feel like we're coping, right? Oh, I deserve this beer. I worked a long day. Alcohol, drugs, sex. Oh, well, I'm not harming anybody. We can overdo with our addictive personalities so many things.
yeah,
We can overdo exercise. We can overdo eating. We can overdo work. We become workaholics. We can overdo sports. We can overdo a lot of
yeah,
stuff. And because it looks like it's productive, we think, okay, I'm coping.
right,
Well, you're working 90 hours a week and there's
right.
only 40 hours in a day.
I
But
mean, and
I'm productive. I'm achieving, right?
she meant 40 hours in the week, y'all.
Oh, yeah, 40, whatever. You're overworking, right?
Yeah,
Trying to meet something because something feels like it's lacking, right? You are out here dating 50 million people, not committing to anyone, but I'm not hurting nobody. Or you're out here. Um, there's just so many ways that we make up for what we feel or don't want people to know that we're missing, right? A lot of people out here high on likes. I got 1 million likes. They're getting high on the likes because somebody needs to say that I'm doing good. I need somebody to notice me.
validation.
Validation.
Mhm.
Or they saying the craziest things publicly on Facebook because they getting attention. Like that's a sign of something. We don't look at it. We know that the social media system was set up so we can be addicted to it, right?
Yeah,
And it does this money.
It's
There's so
working.
many things we can get addicted to. Money, making money, selling, blah blah blah. There's an addiction. I gotta have this thing to feel something that feels like it's not filled.
Yeah, trying to fill the void that you can't fill is what we try to do. That's just my opinion. And I most definitely am on social media. I've definitely caught myself doom scrolling just and what I we are so disconnected. That's a part of it too. And like she said, it was set up to be this way. This is all a part of a bigger plan than most can see, right? And again, that's another conversation. But we are such a distracted community of people all over the world. There's a lot of us very distracted, very want to know what everyone else is doing and what they're doing next, and only having a 3-second attention span. If y'all pay attention to the metrics of your Facebook or even your Instagram or even your YouTube, it will tell you how long someone actually watched your video. It'll also tell you, where people are, how many are men, how many are women. Pay attention to those things. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean anything, but it means something because we have to understand what's happening to us in real time. And we are okay with it because it's not in our minds affecting us, but it really is. It's taken away from time with family, it's taken away from time with friends, it's taken away from time with ourselves. Self-care is something that I believe that everybody should engage in, but that doesn't mean that we're going to do it because some people are pushing for things that may feel typically are my family and my children, because those moments are what I'm going to be able to look back on. I'm not doing it for likes. I'm not doing it for shares, loves, none of that. I'm doing it because these are the memories that I'll be able to save to a file and go back and look at. And then when I'm not here, my children can do the same thing. Um, but that's again a part of the process when it comes to learning about and taking accountability for the things that are or were controlling us and getting us to a point where we're focusing more on what's more important, which are the things and people who love us that are around us, and building those memories and teaching different things so that we're not allowing our spawn to walk into a world of repeating the same cycles and then getting back to the generational curses that people continue to just run through. And then we're just at a whole nother generation doing the same thing. We got to be that change so that that is not what the outcome looks like in some kind of way. Because like we said in the beginning, like they're going to make their own choices eventually, and they may not do what we're asking them or telling them. They may do something completely opposite. So all we could do is try to implement things the best that we know how, where we are.
Yeah. So this is our first show session conversation. We're winding down time. We are interested in your feedback.
Yeah,
Go on our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, let us know your thoughts. We're going to be having different topics. God knows there's a bunch to talk about, right?
Yeah.
We're not here, full disclosure, we are not here as experts to tell anybody how to live their lives.
Right.
We're just having conversation. And maybe we need as people to talk more.
Yeah.
Just get out how we feeling. We making observations based on our life. Your life is totally different.
Right.
You might have a different perspective. Cool. Let us know.
Yeah.
Let's have some conversation. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's heal, man. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen if we heal? Right? So thank you so much for those who have taken the time to listen to us.
Yeah.
I'm Valerie.
I'm Talia Chambers, y'all. Thank y'all so much. We appreciate y'all and love y'all for watching as usual. Please tune in for our next episode. We will be posting titles and links. It will be a little bit more together next time. We just had some technical difficulties. They were trying to get us not to come on here, but Monty made it happen for us. So definitely appreciate Cameron for having us here today and allowing us to be in his space as well. It's definitely a blessing, and we do not take it for granted. We will see you guys in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Thank you.